ESPN had posted their top 100 players going into this season for the NBA. They described it a fancy way of saying this is where people rank right now as we stand heading into the 24 season. So Steve and I went through, found a couple things that we agreed with or didn't agree with that we wanted to talk about and share our thoughts. Our first, one we both agreed on, Tyler Hero, far too low on this list, 79 out of 100. We got Scoot Henderson. Well, not we. And the ESPN's got Scoot Henderson at 78.
That's bad.
Hasn't even played an NBA game yet. Tyler Hero's a 6th man of the year and averaged 20 points in the playoffs.
And
I don't understand.
And he was literally just being used as like a centerpiece of a major trade. Him being at 79 is laughable on this list.
I'm just honestly more upset that Scoot is above him when we've seen, like, why would I think that Scoot Henderson's better than Tyler Hero when I already know what Tyler, not to say Scoot's going to be bad, but I don't know, man. It just don't make any sense. Hero is egregiously too low. And Steve, one that you really have an issue with, Zion Williamson being at 57.
I understand that Zion is having issues staying on the court. Everybody in the NBA world can see that.
Yeah.
But the sample size we have of Zion, the potential for how good he is on the court, 57, I cannot name you 56 players. Having names like DeAndre Ayton and Jarrett Allen above Zion Williamson,
Draymond Green,
Draymond, those names upset me because he's not. No.
And I do get it because a large piece of this is like, what are we going to get? Is he going to play?
Yeah.
Like, what do we, it's hard to like, even like saying like Ja is 35 or something like that. I think like, where are we getting that from? Because a healthy Ja Morant at one point in time was a top 10 player in the NBA, top 10. A healthy Zion Williamson at the most we've seen as a top 11, 12 in the NBA. Definitive top 15. So it seems crazy that he's 57. Seems almost unfair to the people above him that we have seen and have shown that they can be in these positions. So we're just saying Zion should be there because he's Zion, and that's a little bit unfair.
It's just weird seeing guys like Kyrie ahead of Zion when I can say the same thing about Kyrie because he has issues staying on the court the last few years.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We have no direct evidence that Kyrie attributes to winning. But moving on, actually, before we move on to what I want to really talk about, two things. One, Wembanyama at 47. What are we doing? hasn't played. LaMelo Ball is at 48, and Wemby's at 47. What are we doing? Who said that they're allowed to do this? Listen, I get it. Wembanyama in the preseason has looked really good. It's bananas. You know who else looked good in the preseason? Sam Bradford. I remember when the Eagles got Sam Bradford that first season. He had a preseason game where he went like 7 for 7 through for like 105 yards. And people were like, yo, look at this guy out there slinging. And then he became one of the 3 worst Eagles quarterbacks ever. Steve sent me a video last night of Wembanyama squatting to the ground and was like, yo, this dude's about to be an all-star. But something I do really want to talk about that I think is ridiculous on this list is Chris Middleton at 46. I'm a big Chris Middleton believer. Chris Middleton is the most the most mid, I think he's a star. Chris Middleton can win you games. Chris Middleton can be there when it's the big moments. The thumb thing's popping back up. In the big moments, he's a good scorer. He is a excellent number 2 option. Julius Randle is at 45. So in last season in those games, Chris Middleton averaged 24, 5, and 6 in the playoffs. Okay, in the playoffs. Here's what Julius Randle averaged in the playoffs: 25, 10, and 4. Or I'm sorry, 16, 8, and 4.
I was gonna say 25, 10.
Yeah,
and
4.
No,
those are his regular season numbers.
Okay.
So because to point out, so Chris Middleton went from averaging 15 to 25 in the playoffs, and Randle went from averaging 25 in the regular season to 16 in the postseason.
Yep.
That stuff to me matters. Right above him, Steve, which I want to hear your thoughts on quickly. Tyrese Maxey at 42.
Yeah, I saw James Harden was at 43.
CJ McCollum's at 44. Like, ew.
Tyrese Maxey. listen, dude, I'm a big Tyrese Maxey believer because he's like, I'm a Sixer, but he's not top 40. He's not top 50. I mean, he's like, he should be 57 where Zion is. If you told me
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey was 57, I wouldn't be upset with you.
All right, so next up, I want to talk about Paolo Banchero quickly, the current rookie of the year. I almost said former current rookie of the year. Averaged 27-4 this past season. Jaren Jackson Jr., who is 31, is leaps and bounds ahead of him as a defender and averaged 19, 7, and 1.
He was
Pretty
defensive player of the
close looking
year.
numbers. And Jalen Brunson, who you could argue might be the best player on the Knicks if you don't like Julius Randle. He really might be. In the playoffs, Jalen Brunson's putting up 28, 5, and 6.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I got to believe Paolo Banchero is better than both of them.
We have no playoff evidence of Paolo Banchero. We have regular season evidence. He won Rookie of the Year. Good for you, bud. I don't think he's got superstar ceiling.
Karl-Anthony Towns, number 20.
No.
I don't think Karl-Anthony Towns is the top 20 player in the NBA. Tyrese Halliburton, All-Star last year, signed that monster contract. Is ranked 21st. 21, 4, and 10 for him. And again, an All-Star. Towns was not. And Sabonis, who I just said was 22, was on that number. The Kings were the Kings the number 1 seed in the West? Is that how it? No. Yeah, I don't remember. They were a pretty high seed.
They were the 3 seed?
Something like that. Regardless, being a top 3 seed in the West, and then he averaged 16, 11, and 5, but in the playoffs, somewhere Towns was not.
Wasn't Sabonis in the top 10 MVP category for a large portion of the season too?
Maybe that kind of sounds right. I mean, still, Karl-Anthony Towns is not a top 20 player in the league.
Pretty sure Sabonis was also an All NBA teamer. Pretty sure.
Well, he might have been. He might have been a third team. That's a great point.
Pretty sure he was the third.
Proof. So what has Towns shown us of why he deserves to be up there? Like, I don't get it. Like, he doesn't do anything. And I found this out. A little side note. On Basketball Reference, it says one of his nicknames is Special K.
Who?
Have you ever heard anybody call him that ever?
There has not been a soul. Sabonis was the third team All NBA center this last year.
Yeah. So no reason Towns should be above any of those people.
No.
One more thing I want to talk about, Steve, before I turn it over to you is there is a Robin section of this list. 19 through 16 are all people who are the second best player on their teams. Now, in descending order, it goes Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Jamal Murray, and Bam Adebayo. They are all the clear-cut number 2 guys.
Isn't Kawhi Leonard below Paul George?
He is, but does anyone? To me, Paul George has more of a Robin role and archetype. Paul George as a Robin is more effective than Kawhi Leonard as a Robin, and I think we all still consider the Clippers to be Kawhi's team.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I don't know why Kawhi is ranked lower than him.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a Zion, if he's healthy, what are we going to see weird? Anyway, Jaylen Brown, 23, 6, and 3 in the postseason. Now, while Bam averaged 22 and 12 in the finals, that is excellent. Good for him. But I think we'd all agree that Jaylen Brown is a better athlete. Maybe not a better defender, but Jaylen Brown is a very adept defender. Brown is better offensively. Yeah. Brown is better with the ball. I mean, but now, like I said, we had an argument that Bam was maybe the third best player in the finals because Jimmy didn't show up.
Yeah.
These guys can be flipped around and put any way you like. Every one of these guys could have an argument for being at that top spot. So I just found that section of, like I said, number 2 guys, very interesting, very comparable.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that Jaylen Brown, he was a name I almost wrote down. I thought he was a little low on the list personally, but I don't know who I would move. I would have to do more research to see who I would move him ahead of.
Yeah, I mean, and these are the best Robins in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dame.
Well, so I was gonna say, I was thinking like you could say like Dame and Giannis, LeBron and AD, Durant, Booker, like they're not Robins per se. You know what I mean? Like these are clear number two guys. Like you wouldn't want these guys to be the best player on your team. Yeah.
The last two guys that I wanted to like mention that I saw on this list, Dame's too low. I'm sorry. I don't think that they have him at 13.
14.
No, 11.
14.
Oh, they have him at 14. That's right. So they have Dame at 14. They have Anthony Edwards over Damian Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't agree with that.
Dame averaged 32, 5, and 7 in the regular season, didn't make the playoffs. Anthony Edwards averaged 32, 5, and 5 in the playoffs. The same stat line. Yeah. And Dame has proven more in the postseason. I think Dame is a better leader. Yeah. I think Dame is the more malleable star.
Yeah.
The only thing, I mean, they're both not great defenders. I mean, Dame's, I think, if you have him lower than 12, it seems wrong.
Yes, agreed. No, I mean, if you were going into the playoffs with a team, would you rather have Anthony Edwards or Damian Lillard?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
pretty much.
I mean, that to me. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being number 8. I think that, to me, is the most egregious ranking on this list. You're talking about a team and a guy who, same thing with what we literally just said about Anthony Edwards. What makes him better than Anthony Davis? What makes him better than Devin Booker? I don't have an argument for him over those guys. I have an argument for those guys over him.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of his value on the Thunder, and like he's playing as well as he is in a franchising system that poorly is in itself very impressive, and it's easy. It's probably harder to do 35 or 32, 5, and 6 in the Thunder than it is in the Warriors. Like, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
So, but I don't think that should overshadow what other players can do in their own right on their own teams in that situation. Like you said about Dame, there are a lot of people on this list I'd rather have as my best player going into the playoffs than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, like I said, Shai's a nice player, good for him. Not the 8th best player in the sport. He's just not.
Exactly. Overall, I think this list wasn't like awful, but it definitely, whoever's making it sleeps with their dad.
Yeah, well, 100 or 150 panelists and experts. My question is, where was our invite?
Yeah.
This list in itself is invalid because they didn't include everybody. We weren't a part of it. So therefore, this list is just kind of null and void. This segment is pretty much useless, but we hope you enjoyed it and listen to our thoughts on it. And let us know what you think. Let us know if you think what we're saying is right or wrong. Or you got players that you're like, why do you think that? And you guys are dumb, and we'll tell you you're dumb, and we'll get in a conversation. But yeah,
exactly.
Top 100 players in the NBA. Hope you guys enjoyed. Listen to the sound. I listen to the sound.